Welcome back to LDF-Designs. I just wanted to take a quick minute and say that I'm excited that I have now 50 videos posted. So just wanted to thank you for watching, continuing to watch, and subscribing to my channel. If you haven't subscribed to my channel and you enjoy the content that I'm putting out, please feel free to subscribe now and just click the bell that lets you know when I put out my new videos. I try to put them out weekly, but I don't always obtain that schedule, so there is a little bit of randomness to when the videos come out. So in today's video, I am following up from last week's video. I had initially prepared 3 of these 6x6 panels with the same kind of materials on my underpainting, and today I'm just going to go ahead and finish these 2 up as well. I put some initial layers of encaustic down, and at this point I'm just kind of messing around with some cheesecloth, trying to figure out where I want to place it and what kind of shape I want to create with it. Generally, I will take the cheesecloth or the material and dip it in a little bit of the encaustic and place it onto the panel. Once I do that, then I can give it a light fuse or work with it a little bit before I fuse it, but it is important to make sure that you fuse that onto the surface. Now I'm just creating some other texture in other areas, and then once I get some of the texture set, I will go ahead and cover that up with some tar. At this point, I did use a smaller torch to go ahead and fuse that on there, and I realized I didn't quite have as much encaustic on it as I thought, so I started building some layers of encaustic with clear encaustic, white encaustic, and then I also have a cerulean gray. I believe it's made by R&F, and I have some of that on my palette as well, so just kind of using those 3 colors and layering them on. At this point, I'm pulling out the tar that I have mixed with a little bit of vegetable oil. The vegetable oil works as a blending medium and just helps spread that color around. It's a pretty unique color. It's very challenging to recreate it with paint. You can get close, but I just really like the color that it provides. I had a great question last week in regards to the smell of the tar. It does have a pretty unique or somewhat strong smell, but I work with it in very, very small quantities, and so I don't find it to be a problem for myself. I also have very good insulation, or I'm sorry, circulation in my studio. I have several windows that I can open for a cross breeze, and I also run a window fan. I tend to wipe off the excess tar and oil with a paper towel. I get it as dry as I can, and then I do go ahead and give that a light fuse into the encaustic. So at this point, I decided I wanted to add a little more texture, and so decided to work in the corner of the piece here. Very often, once I have the tar or oil paint or whatever it is that I am putting on the surface, I will go ahead and do some incising while I have that on there. Sometimes I feel like it helps me see what I'm doing a little bit better and where I'm placing the marks. I do work with clear encaustic often, so sometimes it's a little bit hard for me to know where I have done my incising. So that's just a little thing that I do, helps me to keep an eye on where I want to place the color. As you can see, I have several different tools that I use for fusing. I have my large torch, which is great for initial layers or larger sections. I have the small mini torch, which works to get into some smaller areas, but it is a little bit harder to control the heat on that one. And then as you just saw, I also have that heat embossing gun. I like to use that one when I want to do a very light fuse. It is important to hold it up farther away from the piece so that you don't move the wax around as it starts to fuse. I've been using this Dr. P.H. Martin's ink to finish some of my pieces off here lately. I can't quite recall what this one is, but I really like the iridescent metal look that it gives to the piece. They have several colors out there to choose from if you look them up online. So I'm basically going to repeat a lot of the same processes to finish this piece up as I did the first one, and so I probably don't have a lot of commentary to add to this, but I do know that some people just like to watch the process. Same thing, I'm using the cheesecloth to create shapes and texture, dimension. I usually, again, once I know where I want to put it, I'll dip it into the encaustic, and then in this case I'm just adding more encaustic over the top, several different layers and a couple different colors, and then once I get all of that on there, I will go ahead and cover that up with the tar to help blend it into the piece and grunge it up a little bit. That drywall compound has a lot of texture. It doesn't really pick it up super well on the camera here, but it's kind of nice sometimes to just take a semi-dry encaustic brush and drag it over that texture, and it catches on there and will create an even greater depth of texture. At this point, I started to make a little pattern with my incising tool, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the tar. I had accidentally made some drips on the piece that I didn't mean to, but once they landed, I decided I liked them and added a few more. So in that case, I just went ahead and incised around the outside of those drips, and that will enhance them and pick them up a little bit on the surface of the encaustic painting. You'll see it better here when it's done. As always, I'll have pictures of these over on my Instagram account, so you'll be able to see a little bit better pictures of them over there once I get them done and get the pictures up. I decided I wanted to knock some of that blue color back just a little bit, so I pulled out my white encaustic and started to do a little bit of accretion over the drywall texture in that darker color. I like the color, I just didn't want maybe quite as much of it. Sometimes it can be a little challenging to get the color into all of the different areas when you're creating a rich texture like that. So you do have to be patient and work it into all of the areas. And then likewise to get the excess off, and if that tar pools in some of the deeper wells, because it's tar, it can take quite a long time for it to cure. So I tend to try to dry the super deep wells up a little bit, or make sure that the tar isn't super thick in those areas. Sometimes I will do that off camera, but on this one I ended up kind of keeping the camera on for a good part of it. Keeping in mind I have this sped up quite a bit, so it is a little bit of a process. Sometimes when I'm creating the pieces, I have in mind how they'll sit, but I don't always know how they're going to be oriented. So people can turn them in either direction that they like. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and finish this off with a little bit of that gold color and place it onto some of the areas. Let it dry for a minute or two, and then I will fuse that onto the surface. And that will just about wrap this video up. Once again, you'll be able to see these over on the Instagram page. Thank you so much for watching today, and I look forward to bringing you another video very soon.